Oh, there we go. All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Natalia Lemoyne. I'm a coordinator for instructional technology in the school district in New York, and I am so happy to be here working with all of you and with Amanda, our presenter for today. So I know you've known her already. You've done a bunch of sessions with her. Seems like it's a very nice group, Amanda was telling me, so I can't wait to learn from you as well. I'll be posting in the chat, and I'll be probably hiding in the chat in the sense that I will be listening and paying attention to anything that you type in there. Please feel free to reach out to me that way. And I don't know, Amanda, if you're okay with them unmuting and asking directly questions as well. All right, so you guys can do that as well. I'll paste the resources in the chat as well. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Take it away, Amanda.
All right. Thank you so much. How many of you cleaned out your email inbox over the weekend? Anybody? Or organized your bookmarks? Let me know in the chat if you worked on anything over the weekend. And I'm going to share my screen. Cancel that first. Put that there. I like that. Was not successful. Okay, played around with tab grouping. I looked but didn't do anything. That's fine. Thinking about it is like half the battle. I had this really weird dream the other night that I needed to be at a school, and there was like 3 doors to get into the school, and 2 of them were like boarded over and I couldn't get to them. So I was going to have to walk all the way around the block to get to them. And I don't know why that had me in such a panic. It felt a lot like first day of school, nightmares. Like, what in the world? So fun. All right, I've got my screen up here. You guys know the drill. Let me know if I need to make it bigger. I did zoom it in a little bit, but I can always zoom in on the browser level too if you need to. So just a really quick review. We have our Jamboard that Natalia can post in the chat for us again. Oh, hello. There we go. We have our Jamboard. If you haven't already added a little intro tag, you can. I love that Chris added a picture. You can do so as well. Your skill level goes on frame 2, and then frame 3 is where we can do our Q&A board. So we already have quite a few in here. I'm going to kind of tuck the ones that have been answered up here in the corner. It looks like we've got this right here. I've noticed that when I upload a background image into Meet, it's reversed. So we'll be able to answer these questions. If not during this call, we'll answer them afterwards. And then we'll make sure that the answer is here for you guys. And then also Natalia is going to keep track of our task, and she's going to be kind of checking them off on the agenda as we go through them to make sure that we cover everything today. Our goal is to get through Classroom, Drive, and possibly Docs. We'll see how far we go. But hopefully covering Classroom. I know that you guys use Schoology, but we want to make sure that you have the base skills that you need to be successful on the exam. So I will... we're going to just look at it as a skill level. We're not going to go into a lot of productivity because I know that that's not, you guys don't have anybody that uses Classroom, right? You guys are all Schoology? Everything is Schoology. Okay, cool.
We're all Schoology, correct.
Okay, cool. So we will stay away from the productivity and workflow part. We're just going to look at the basic skills, and really a lot of it's going to be, if I'm asked this question, how am I going to find the answer? Am I going to be able to get in there and mess around with it? And you shouldn't have a problem with that. I feel like Classroom is pretty intuitive. I'm not in there on a daily basis, and I'm able to find stuff pretty easily. So I'm sure it'll be different if I was teaching out of it, but for the most part, I can find what I need to find. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to open up Google Classroom in a new tab.
So, Amanda, I'm just going to go ahead and also type in the chat when you start talking about a specific topic. That also helps us timestamp it on the chat.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Yes, that'll be awesome. Yeah, we realized that there's a couple of things we could do to help with those timestamps after the fact, because I don't always go in order. Isn't that great? But that way you guys can navigate that better. And I for those of you that just popped on, we did add the recordings to the agenda. Let me show you where that is. So the recordings are going to be up here. There's going to be two. I'm actually going to type in YouTube with timestamps so you guys know the difference. So these first ones up here, these are just the raw drive recordings. And then if you want to see the timestamps, you can open up the YouTube video. And then here we've got all of the timestamps based on the different skills on our agenda. So if you're looking for something specific or you don't remember that we talked about that, those will be listed there in the chat. And they're also listed here as chapters. So hopefully that helps you guys navigate as you prepare and, review everything. All right, so we're going to hop into Google Classroom. This is the homepage, the dashboard for Google Classroom. As a teacher, your cards are going to look like this. If you are the student in a class, you're going to see the teacher's face on the card. So you can tell I am in one class and then I am the teacher of two classes. So let me just review really quick the basics. Learn how to create a class, invite students, access Meet, add assignments, customize text, host assignments, customize class. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So to create a class, up in the right-hand corner, you have a plus sign. Teachers should have the ability to create or join a class. Students only have the ability to join a class. This is something that is turned on and off on the admin console level. So we can create a class. We're going to call it LAUSD Review. And we're going to hit create. Simple as that. You can add in section, subject, room, all of that as well. Typically, if I was doing this for like a real class, I would also put the year on there. It just really helps organize. I know you guys with Schoology, you have a lot of organizational challenges having so many classes and being part of so many classes. So that's one way that you can organize with Google Classroom. So here is your stream, new updates to your class. You can put announcements. You can really customize the way that the stream works for you. But the first thing that we're going to look at is, actually, I'm going to move this over. Hang on just a second.
Hey, Amanda, quick question.
Yes.
Are they supposed to be able to create classes? Do they have the option?
No, they will not have to create classes for the exam. So if they don't have that ability right now, that's okay. If you have a personal Gmail account, you can create classes in your personal Gmail account. It'll give you a warning that you're not supposed to use a personal Gmail account with minors. But other than that, you should have almost full functionality on a personal account if you want to practice. But remember, the test is not performance-based anymore. You don't have to get in there and mess with things. The only thing that you would need is if the test wanted you to, like, how do you do this? And you can't get into Google Classroom, you wouldn't be able to, like, test it out. But again, you can use your personal account for that. All right, so let's see. Okay, we are going to look at how to invite students with the invite link. So the very first thing that you're going to see on your Google Classroom page on the left-hand side, you have the ability to create a Meet link. This became a feature during the pandemic, not only just using Meet, but using Meet that has some extra protections in it. So that is what Google Classroom Meet link is. It's specific to your students. Students can't join the Meet link until the teacher's in there. And as a teacher, I can turn that on and off. But how do you get students in your class? With your class code. And Google added this little preview box a couple years ago, which makes it really easy to pop that nice and big. So when students go to their classroom and they hit that plus button and they hit join, they type in this code here. This code could also be typed on a website or somewhere else and shared. Now, Google Classrooms are domain specific. So that means if a student in a different school district got a hold of your class code, could they join your class? No, they cannot, unless something is turned on the admin side, and that is very unusual to find in most school districts because they don't need random students joining their Google Classroom classes. That also means a student shouldn't be able to join your Google Classroom with a personal account as well. You can also copy the event link. Again, you're not going to be able to do anything with this link, but I'm just going to post it in the chat so you can see what it looks like. It's going to look like this. You're not going to be able to join my class because this is not an LAUSD account, but students can click on this to join a class. So if you had a class, you wanted them to join a different class, or if you had a new class for the new term, now with more and more things moving online, I've noticed that some teachers just create a new Google Classroom every grading period or every semester. So they can keep it a little bit cleaner. Otherwise, you've got thousands and thousands of things in one classroom. And I'm sure you guys experienced that having an LMS. All right, the next thing on here is the Google Meet link. That's right here. So we're going to go ahead and click the Generate Link button, and I'm going to make it visible to students and hit Save. As soon as I do that, it's going to be right here in the upper right-hand corner or upper left-hand corner for students to see. If for any reason I don't want it to be visible to students, I can toggle that on and off. So all I have to do is hit Manage, and then I can turn this off. I can see it, but the students cannot. And so it just tells me right here that it's visible. Students will see it in the exact same place. Next, we're going to look at how to add assignments. So assignments are going to be listed under classwork, and there's actually a couple of different items that you can add. They're not just assignments. You can also access Meet right here as well. When you click on the Create button, you've got a couple of choices: assignment, quiz, question, material. Material is something that you would post like a syllabus at the beginning of a course, or an announcement, or possibly even um, a review, something that the students aren't going to change in any way and turn back into you. If it doesn't need to be graded, it can be a material. You can also post a question. Questions are great. They are a very quick and easy formative assessment. They are a little limited. You can only do short answer or multiple choice, and you can only ask one question at a time. So if I had a 3-question formative assessment at the end of a class, I would have to add 3 questions at the end, like to create all 3. I wouldn't be able to do that in one go. If I want to create something that has more than one question, then I can create a quiz assignment. This will automatically create a Google form and attach it to this assignment. So we can call this formative assessment. And then the form is already here, and then I can click assign. And then as the teacher, I can open up this blank quiz and I can edit it. And then the students will see the edited version. Question 1, we'll make this open-ended, required, and we'll repeat it. And we're going to talk more about forms, I think, tomorrow. So here's that. We're going to call it change the name. I'm going to put LAUSD in front of it so I remember that that's what this is, because I'll find this 4 months from now and be like, what did I make this for? All right. So now, nice. There it is. And then as students take this quiz or fill out the formative assessment, quizzes and forms are auto grading. I'll be able to see who's been assigned and who's turned it in. Right now, this is 0-0 because I don't have any students in my class. But if I had 10 students, it would say 10 assigned, and then that number would go up on this turned in section as students turn it in. And then the final thing, and the thing that people loved the most about Google Classroom when it came out, was the assignment feature. So very similar to probably what you guys have available to you. I can create a blank assignment just as a place where I can keep track of whether or not a student has done something, or I can add a template that the students can either edit, view, or make a copy of, just like going to the copy machine. And it feels so simple to talk about it now. But remember, 10 years ago, this wasn't available. You had to do all of this by hand, and it was exhausting. So we've come a long way with all of these LMS options. So in this example, I'm going to use our Jamboard as our assignment. Right here, you have the option. You've got 3 different options. This is probably the biggest gotcha in Google Classroom if you don't have classroom experience, is how to manage the assignment piece that you're giving to students. So if you're attaching a file that they need to be able to mess with, you have to set the permissions when you create the assignment. So students can view is kind of like giving them a PDF. They can look at it, but they can't edit it or comment on it in any way. This could be a project page, like I'm giving them a project, here's all the instructions, but they're doing everything either in person or they're creating their own documents and attaching them to the assignment when they are finished. Students can edit file is a collaborative feature. So if you want all of your students to work together on an assignment, Jamboard is actually really great for that. Then you would use that setting. That would be like anyone with link can edit. And then the last one is make a copy for each student. So the ability for Google Classroom to take that file, make copies for every student. It renames the file, it gives them access, it gives you access, and then that pushes it out to the students. What's great about this versus having your students do something and turn it in is you have access to it from the very beginning, where if they make something on their own and they share it with you, you have to wait for them to share it with you before you have access to it. So for this one, we're going to do students can edit file because I don't need to make copies. I'm going to call this Intro Jamboard. Instructions are optional. You can also change what class you're putting it in, what students are receiving it, how many points, when is it due. Topics are like tags or folders. It's a really great way to organize once you have a gajillion assignments in Google Classroom. You can also assign, schedule, or save as draft. If you're not ready to post it yet, you can just save it as draft. I know a lot of teachers that do this at the beginning of the year. They just put a bunch of stuff in draft and then they post it when they're ready. You can also schedule it to post at a specific time. I'm going to pause for a second and see if there's any questions.
And you got the Jamboard just from your Google Drive, right?
I did, yeah. So when you open up the Create an Assignment, these little buttons down here, this is adding a file from Google Drive, uploading a file from your computer, adding a link, like if you wanted them to do a particular science emulation, they could do that there, adding a video from YouTube, or attaching a brand new blank document. So let's say I wanted them to do a writing assignment, spring break writing review, but I don't have like a template for them, but I still want to have access to their writing from beginning to end. I can click this plus button, add a new doc. It'll go ahead and create a doc for me. I can give it the same name. There we go. And this kind, I would probably want to do make a copy for each student.
Right.
And then I could assign. So you've got a lot of options there. Just the way it handles sharing permissions with Google Documents back and forth between teacher and student was mind-blowing for all of us in the beginning.
Right. And then if you had done that part where you had made the spring break writing review, you could also then create a tag for it and it would go into its own folder under classwork.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those are called topics. So
right.
I can hit create and topic. So I can type in writing. And then let's make one for exit tickets.
Hey, Amanda, we have a couple of questions when you get a second.
Sure.
Mimi wants to know, in a shared assignment, can you specify only a few students to collaborate and not everyone?
You can, but it's not as simple as it looks. So for example, if I wanted to do a project and I only wanted a small group to do it, I would have to create that assignment for every single group. Now, if you had a project that had, like, let's say your class was broken up into different regions of the United States and they were all doing a project based on that region, and so they all had different origin documents, then maybe that would work. some teachers don't mind the extra work of creating 4 different assignments. And some teachers are like, nope, I'm going to create one assignment, put all of the documents that they need, and then the students can figure it out. What I see more often for the separation of students for the assignment is I have maybe 2 or 3 levels in my classroom, and I want to give a modified assignment to this group, or I need to give my English language learners a slightly different assignment. And so I can designate who gets what assignment that way, but you would still have to have 3 individual assignments. So
Thank you.
That answers your question. Yeah.
We have one more from Noel. I believe he wants to know, does he create its own folder that identifies it was from your classroom on Google Drive? I believe it was when you were creating the topic.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the topic, no. So topics don't create their own folders in Google Drive. So the class folder is going to be separated by the class itself. So LAUSD Review is the name of my class. And then the folders are going to be created. Those are any assignments that I make that have make a copy for each student turned on. If it's just a single document or it's an edit for everybody, that's just going to go in as a file. But usually every assignment that you make will have its own folder, but it doesn't designate by topic.
Can you nest those assignments in folders you create in Drive and it won't screw up the assignment? I mean, could you make a folder and put all writing into one folder?
You could. You could. I don't know. I don't know teachers that do that. I'm sure they do. I try not to mess with my classroom folder because I don't want it to break.
Right.
And I don't think it has, as long as you don't delete it, it's fine. The one that you really don't mess with is templates. You got to leave templates alone. But I think you can organize your folders if you want to. So it would be a parent folder than individual folders per classroom. It would be a class, yeah, so there's the classroom folder and then all the classes that you've ever made. And then inside each class is all of the assignments that you've ever given. Yeah, exactly. Now, one question that I get often, again, I know you guys aren't using this, but a big question that I get is, okay, cool. I've got all this stuff in Google Drive, but when I go to shared with me, it is just filled with all of my student work. How do I organize shared with me? Well, first of all, you don't organize shared with me. And I know that's disappointing for a lot of people to hear, but it's not meant to be organized. Secondly, the best way to keep your students' documents like out of your stream in that way is to return assignments. And this is probably the biggest piece that most teachers miss in Google Classroom. And I wish I had an example. Let me see. I think I do. If Cordova has any assignments on it. It does not. I am going to try to open up. Oh, I don't think it's on there either. I will find an example for you guys of class and returning assignments because I want you to see what that looks like. Again, you don't need it. You're not going to need to know how to do it necessarily, but that you can. So when you're done with an assignment, you can go to review and then all the work that your students have turned in. You can, so here's one that's got assigned and turned in. I can go here and I can mark it as reviewed. This is just a question. This is an assignment. The main thing with assignments is when you're done with it, you have to return it to the student. Otherwise, you stay the owner of all of those files. And that's probably the biggest piece that teachers who use Classroom on a daily basis don't realize. Returning those assignments is part of the process because when a student turns an assignment into you, you become the sole owner of that assignment. They don't have access to it anymore unless they unsubmit it and then resubmit it. So that'll kind of keep it out of your shared with me stream once you return all of those assignments back to the students.
Amanda,
So when we
right.
sorry, so when we return the assignment, we are not going to have that file in the drive anymore, or
No, it'll still be in the
Okay.
drive, but your student becomes the owner of the assignment again.
Okay.
So
All
you're
right.
not the owner of it, your student is. You still have access to it, but it's still there. And I get teachers asking me questions all the time. Well, can I just delete all of those old folders? You can, especially if they're like really old, but you don't really need to. I don't think you're gonna, unless you start running out of space. Um, I wouldn't. I would talk to your IT department or your admin folks first before you start deleting those files because they are student files. Every district kind of handles that differently. Okay, let me see. So what is the difference between classwork and stream? Classwork is for these items: assignment, quiz, question, material. When I post an assignment, this is kind of like a notification board. A notification will push from classwork onto the stream because this is the first thing that students see when they come in. You can also add an announcement yourself. So for example, don't forget your admission forms tomorrow. Same thing, I can attach um, a file, upload, add a YouTube video, link, whatever. I also have the ability to make a list, and this is pretty new. They didn't used to have this. You can actually format this to be a little bit nicer now instead of just regular plain text, which is nice. And then your students have the ability to comment, or you have the ability to make comments. If you don't want students commenting, you can turn that off in the settings, which is really nice. Okay, one thing that I forgot to show you is the post assignments for additional classes. When you make an assignment, you have the ability to add it to additional classes, which is really great. So if I am a high school science teacher and I have 7 sections, I can post the same assignment to all 7 sections. You don't have the ability to schedule that way. So if I wanted to schedule this to post tomorrow morning, I couldn't do it in one go yet. It is a feature that I believe Google is adding later this year. But you can schedule to multiple, and I don't think you'll have that kind of trick question, but you can schedule to multiple classes at one time, which is really great. You can also choose your topic as you're creating your class. One thing while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and talk about rubrics. Do you guys have rubrics in your LMS?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, so the rubrics is a newer feature. You can either import a previous rubric from Sheets or reusing a rubric, or you can create a rubric from scratch. So probably very similar. You can create your criterion, have all of their pieces, and then as you're grading your work, you can grade it using the rubric. Super simple, and it's a game changer for those of us that give work and grade work in classroom. The check plagiarism originality reports, we're going to add this to the agenda. I'm going to post it here in the chat. There's a kind of different pieces with the plagiarism, and it has changed as it's gone on. It also depends on what level of Google Workspace account your school district has. But basically, the originality report matches for any other document within the domain for that assignment. So it's great. It's probably not as robust as, what is the big one that everybody uses? Yes. No.
Don't steal my work.com. I'm kidding.
Turn it in.
No, that's do your own thing.
No, what is it called? It's
.com.
why can I? It's like English teachers love it. Do I not have any English teachers in the room? What is it called?
Turn it in.
Turn it in. Thank you. Turnitin.com. Thank you. Do your own thing. Stop plagiarizing. I got in trouble for writing one of my brother's reports when he was in school.
NoCopycats.com. I think that's what.
NoCopycats.com. Hey, I can just go onto Fiverr and have somebody write it for me and it'll be original. That's fine.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
what was that called? Fiverr?
I'm
Fiverr.
trying to write a paper and pass this test. Could you hook me up with that?
Right.
Yeah. There actually is a disclaimer when you have somebody write something in Fiverr. It'll even say, like, this is not to be, we don't condone people writing things for your like school assignments or something like that. So I thought that was really nice. Whether or not people actually honor that, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Post and assignments. Ooh, customized class. Okay, rubrics. We talked about, so grading, again, it's going to be a little tricky because I don't have any work to grade. But basically when you grade, you view the assignment, it opens up this grading window here. All of your student work will be listed in this section down here at the bottom, and you just grade assignment after assignment. I will try to have, at the end of the video, I'll see if I can add a little screenshot of what it looks like to grade. I do have an example of that, so I'll try to add that to your agenda so you can see a version of that. You can also find examples of it online, but I'll try to give you a pointed example so you don't have to go searching for it. Yes, Mimi, you can manually add students. When you go to people, you can add, so the student code is going to be on the very first page under stream. When you go to people, there's this little plus sign right here. So you can invite students based on their email address. So we don't have a ton of people in our domain, but I can go ahead and invite Lauren. And the reason it's grayed out right now is because she hasn't accepted it yet. I can also invite co-teachers. You guys are familiar with co-teachers. They have the same level of access right now that any teacher does. And then under grades, once I have assignments and stuff graded, I've got this nice little grade book that I can export it as as a CSV file. Some grade books actually will talk to Google Classroom. It just depends on the systems that you have. The last little piece is email, adding and removing guardians, and customizing the class, and archiving or deleting a class. So under people, you have the ability to add or remove a guardian. I've learned as we move forward with this and this has become more available, districts are trying to manage the guardian. It's basically a email address for a parent or a adult that's responsible for that child, and they can get email summaries daily, weekly, that let them know top level what the student has turned in or what's going on in the class. I feel like it's it leaves something to be desired. I don't feel like it's the best way of reporting what's going on in the class because the parents can't really see anything, but they can see that like 3 things were assigned or something is missing. But you have to make sure you've got due dates and stuff in there. So I find when we talk about the guardian summary, most people complain about it, but this is where you would add it, is under the people tab. So once the student is in, there's a little thing right here. It'll say like no guardian, or it'll say who the guardian is. And then under your settings in your classroom, you can turn guardian summaries on or off. So it'll send it out to the class or not. And actually, is it per class? I'll have to look and see if it's per class or if it's per account. Stream, deleted items, visible to students. I don't see guardian summaries on here. I'll have to look and see where it went. Natalia, do you know where guardian summary went? There's a setting, right, to turn it on and off?
Yes, it's under the settings cogwheel, I thought, on the top.
This one here or the one on the
Yeah.
left?
No, for the class.
For the class, right? Comments. I didn't see it. Maybe it's something that's not turned on for my domain.
It
Yeah,
might be. Let me check in mine.
okay. You just have to know where to find it, and that's under the People tab. That's where you can see where the Guardian is and add one if you need to. All right, 2 more, how to customize a class and how to archive or delete a class. So customizing a class, there's a couple different things you can do. The most favorite is the banner up here. Right now it has this, little generic banner. I can go to customize and I can change the color. I can change the photo based on the options that they have for me, or it's like a class theme, or I can upload a photo. Now, the tricky thing about this photo is it's kind of like a Facebook or a Twitter banner. It's got to be kind of long and skinny. So if you can find banner images, or you can utilize Google, you can use Google Drawings to create your own. If you really want to see Amanda version 2016, you can look up Amanda Taylor certified trainer video on YouTube. And in this video, I show you how to make a custom classroom banner using Google Drawings. So if you're interested in seeing how to do that, I have that outlined here for you. I will put it in the agenda. We're not going to watch it right now. It's old. It's from 2016. But it walks you through the process of how to size the image, how to create the image. Honestly, at this day and age, I'd probably be using Canva instead, because Canva is just so pretty and clean. But Google Drawings works too. And it was for my Google Certified Trainer application, so I wanted to use Google for all the things. But you can adjust all of these, the color, the theme, the background image, which is nice. You can also make this an animated GIF. You would have to do it like out. You can't do it in Classroom, but if you had an animated image that fit this size, this could be an animated GIF, which is really neat.
Amanda, if you go back to the configuration wheel for that class, and under General, right below, you don't have it, because the last thing you see here show deleted items, right? So it's not turned on your domain, because I see right below that, I see the Guardian
Summaries.
Right there.
Okay, awesome. Good to know. So it will be here in settings if you, for some reason, needed to turn it on or off. We don't have to do that here. So
can I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you covered this already or not, but how to access that Google Meet link for that class?
Yes, so to access the Google Meet, it has to be visible to students. So you can do that here with the 3 dots. You can hit Manage, and then you can turn this on, and it'll be visible to students. It'll also be visible to them under the Classwork tab here. And then if you wanted to not have it listed in Meet, but copy and list it somewhere else, you could copy the link and you could share it that way as well.
Thank you. And lastly, how about customizing the text?
So customizing the text is in the box when you're creating the assignment. So you've got your little text options right here. So you don't have a ton of options like changing the font, but you can do bold, italics, underline, bulleted list, and then remove formatting. And you can do that in an assignment. You can also do that in an announcement.
Thank you. Perfect, thanks.
Yeah. And I forgot to, I think I copied the link and then I didn't paste it. Okay. Yep, that's the wrong one. I will find that video and I will post it in the agenda for you guys. All right, final piece for Google Classroom. Let's go back to our classes page. What do you do at the end of the year when you're all done with your classes and you want to start over?
Archive them.
You archive them. Yeah, isn't that like the best thing ever? So you hover, you click the 3 dots, just so you know, this, and I think we talked about this last time, that skinny snowman. Does anybody remember what that's called? The 3 dots on top of each other? I've also heard them called the jelly beans.
More options.
More
More.
options menu. Good job. So that
Chris
more
calls
options
it the,
menu.
Chris calls it a shish kebab to keep in with the epicureal, you know,
Yes.
hamburger and waffle.
I love
So,
it.
yeah.
I love it. This is
What
where
else
you're
you
going to
got?
find the archive option. So you can click on that more options menu and you can click archive, and it lets you know, what does archive mean? Archived classes can't be modified unless they are restored. The classes will move to your archived classes and the files will remain in Google Drive. So when we hit archive, if we want to find it again, we go up here to the main menu in the top left-hand corner. And then under here, we have our archived classes. And then you also have some high-level settings. I'm not going to review these individually, but you do have settings that apply to all of your Google Classroom classes. One of the biggest things that I see is, how do I manage the comments in Google Classroom so they're not so overwhelming? You can choose the things that you get email notifications on, things that, if you want private comments, but you don't want comments about this or that, you can turn those on and off. I don't recommend turning them completely off because then you don't get any notifications from Classroom, and that has its own issues, but you can customize. You can also change the way that your name looks. So for example, Mimi, if she doesn't want, Mildred on there, or if you want it to say Mrs. Taylor or something else, or not a hyphenated name, that's usually something that they can change in the admin level. All right, I'm going to pause for just a second. Questions? When you archive a class, what happens to a student working grades? Yes, everything is still accessible. They will be able to go to archived classes as well. All the grades, everything stays there. It just moves off of this screen here. If you want to make any changes to it, you have to unarchive the class. So it's recommended that you return all work, make sure all work is graded before you archive it. And I don't have the ability to delete the class. It's an admin level thing to have that turned on or off, but they do have a setting where you can delete a class if you need to. The main thing that they're going to want, Mimi, is they're going to want access to their work, and all of that is going to be in Google Drive. Oh, and thank you. That's a great point. All of the data, even if you delete it, is still stored so admins can find it. It never goes away. Right, final questions for Google Drive. Yay, you guys are so great with your emojis. Good job. There it is. We're going to pause that. No, pause. Thank you. Okay. All right, we get to move on to Google Drive. Link, paste, apply. All right, so with Google Drive, we're going to talk about how to organize Drive. We're going to learn how to access files and search. We're going to learn what features are available under that right-click menu, that More Options menu. We're going to learn how to add shortcuts, customize the color of folders, and customize the, oh, that's the same. Those two are the exact same thing. All right, so let's open up Google Drive. Mine is actually not that bad. It could be so much worse. I am not the queen of folders, even though I have quite a few folders here. There are lots of different ways to organize Drive. I'm going to walk you through a couple of suggestions, but really the way you organize it is going to be personalized to you and what you find, valuable or helpful. So learning how to organize your Drive is a really broad statement. What I'm going to show you are some of your options, and I'm going to show you how to access and find things, and then you can figure out how best your Drive should be organized. One of the quick tips that I like to share with people is to do a quick search using the words copy of, but we're going to click the search options here and we're going to make sure that copy of is in the item name and not just has the words. So I'm going to do copy of, and then I'm also going to change it to the owner owned by me. So item name, copy of, owner owned by me. And you can see that it gives me some little search modifiers up here, very similar to what it would look like if I was searching for something in Google itself or in Gmail. Remember, we were using some of these in Gmail last time. And then when I click search, it's going to open up every single file that I have made a copy of and then did not rename or have not done anything with. And for me, there's always a lot of these. This is actually not bad because I just cleaned this up a couple of weeks ago. So when I think about organizing my drive, the first thing I think about is what can I throw away? Just like if I was going to start packing up my house or cleaning up a room, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of trash because trash doesn't have a place and it just needs to go. So I know that I make a copy. How many of you have made a copy of things and then you forget about it? And so now you're looking through your list of copy ofs and you didn't even remember that you had that thing from that conference like 2 years ago. So now you can go through here, figure out what you want to keep, figure out what you want to throw away. If you click this little I button in kind of the top right-hand corner of your screen, when you select on a file, it'll give you a little bit more information. So who has access to this? Is this just one person? Do I own it? Obviously I own it, but who, is there anything else in here? This looks like a blank document. Actually, this was just made. Oh, I think this is the one we made last week. So then I can figure out, if it's just blank, if there's nothing else in here, it doesn't have any size, and then I can go to activity and I can see maybe I just made it the one time. I haven't done anything else to it. So can I delete it? I can open it up and take a look at it some more. If I have the file selected, I can click not the eye, but the eyeball, and it'll give me a preview. Oh, that's right. This is a document that I saved that had some good email template follow-up things. So I don't need both of these, so I can remove one of them. And then I've got two of these, so I can figure out which one of these do I want to keep, which one of these, do I want to get rid of. This one I actually want to keep. So is it stored somewhere? You've got all of these details here. Which is nice. So the little I is going to give you more details about that document activity, who's it shared with, when's the last time it was touched. And then the eyeball will give you a quick preview of that particular file, so you don't have to open it up all the way. Another way that you can sort quickly and get rid of some stuff is to sort by year. So you can say date modified, and you can choose really old files and see, is there anything there that you can get rid of? You can also change your view in Google Drive. Mine is in grid view. I prefer grid view, but you can change it from grid view to list view. That's up here in the right-hand corner. And you can sort by last modified or last opened. So sorting by last opened is really great. And then you can go and then you can scroll through and see when it was last modified. You should be able to sort by that. Last. There it goes. It's not letting me sort by last opened. I thought you could do that. I don't know why it's not working. I like to look for really old files and delete those because chances are if I haven't touched them in 5 years, I'm not going to need them. This looks weird. I don't like list view. How many of you prefer list view over grid view? Let me know in the chat. List view stresses me out. Nope. You don't care either way? List view, list view. Ah, list view. You and me, Ruben. Natalia, what about you? Grid view, list view?
Oh, I'm a little delayed for some reason. I love the list view
Why do you like list view? What's wrong with you?
because I can see quickly the icon tells me what it is. I don't need to see the content, and I just need to see the name and when it was modified. So it's easier to see all that information at a glance.
That's
Yeah.
exactly why I use it sometimes. Is I don't need to fish through all this crud. I just want to see it really quickly and find what I need.
That makes sense. I do like that the icon, it also, if you've got really long file names, it makes it a little bit easier to see the entire file name.
Mhm.
With your bionic eye, Dr. Q, right?
What was that?
With your bionic eye, right, Dr. Q?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that I want to show you, and I'm sure you guys know this, I'm going to make this really big. What is the difference between this X and this T-ish, whatever that, it's not really a letter. You guys see the difference? What's the difference between this green one and this green one? Obviously, the file names are different, but
One's a sheet, one's Excel.
Yep, one is a Google Sheet and one is Excel. So you can tell very quickly what the file type is, especially now that you can actually open and do some basic editing in an Excel document, in a Word document without having to change the file type. That's something to keep in mind. If you open this up and it's not working for you properly, or you're like, where's my add-ons, or why can't I do XYZ? Is it still an Excel format, or did it switch to a sheet format? And then if you were to make a copy of this one right here, this school list, if I were to make a copy of this, it would actually be a separate document. So then I would have two next to each other. So I've troubleshooted that before as well, where somebody's like, I don't understand, I'm in the file. Like, you're not. You're in the old, like, you're in the Excel version of the file. You're not in the Sheets version of the file, which is the file that everybody else was on. All right, so another way that you can organize Google Drive, it's going to put it back in grid view. You can search by type. This is probably my favorite way. You can search by owner. You can also search by, we're not using approvals right now. You can search by follow-up, so suggestions, action items, all of these things. You can search by location, where is it at, which is really great. I like making kind of generic folders and then going down from there. Not everything I do needs to be in a folder, but I try to keep things organized that I use regularly. And then I end up having a bunch of random documents that I have to go back and organize over time. I probably only organize my drive every maybe 6 to 9 months. So let's see, how many files do I have in here that don't live in a folder? That's not too bad, only 80. Is it better to have, Mimi, I think that is a personal question. Yeah. So formatting is going to change and functionality is going to change. So what are you going to do with it? Is it just so you can have a copy of it there? Do you actually need to work in the data? So that list that you saw earlier, the school principal list, I don't actually need to do anything with that document. I took that data and I pasted it somewhere else. So it's fine. I don't need to convert it. But if I was going to be working in that document, I would probably switch it to a sheet so I could utilize my extensions and the full functionality of Google Sheets.
Yeah, it's really for me to save it, but you know, I'm going to OneDrive and just saving it in my OneDrive as Microsoft.
Yeah.
I also had another question prior
Sure.
to this one, is that, you know, we have a penchant for adding like symbols to our files. And so, you know, on Schoology is great because it helps us to organize our courses a little easier by name. But so I was wondering, does Google have any kind of a pecking order for how they handle symbols? Like
Yeah,
if we
they do.
Oh, they do? Oh,
They do. So you'll notice up here, I've got digital citizenship, silver consolidated, working folder. Notice I have an exclamation point, an exclamation point, and some asterisks in front of it. So when you sort by name, it's going to follow alphabetical order for symbols, numbers, and letters, the alphanumeric order. It'll also do that for emojis. Now, what is the hierarchy of emojis? I don't know. I have not figured that out yet, and I just haven't really looked into it. But if I were to add a emoji to the front of this folder, it would pull it up to the top alphabetically up here. So it considers that a lower level than these other symbols that I've used. I've also seen people use underscores. If I wanted the silver to be above digital citizenship, I could add 2 exclamation points. I actually learned that from my grandmother, which is fun. Is that what you're talking about by adding symbols?
yes, because I want some of my files to appear before others, even though and not rely on
Alphabetically?
alphabetical. Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Thank
I'm the same way. And you'll notice down here at the bottom, what do I have as my last folder? Archive, which unfortunately starts with an A. I don't want archive to be at the front, so I put a Z in front of it, so it's at the end of the list. I'll also put X's in front of something that maybe I'm not using as much anymore or is about to get phased out. And then if I've got something that's old, something that I don't use at all, I'll just dump it into this archive folder. Like Victor Valley, that's an older project, so I can dump that into the archive folder. I don't need that anymore. Same thing with that one. You can also change it by changing the color of the folder. I don't think this, I mean, it does make it pop a little bit. You're the only one that's going to see that color change. So, and this is also a big part of the customize the colors of your folders and learn what's behind the right-click menu. So we are going to learn what's behind the right-click menu in Drive right now. There's a lot of stuff behind the right-click menu. So when I click, and it's not going to show, is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Awesome. So when I right-click on a folder or a file, I'm going to get a whole bunch of options. I can open with. For example, if there's more than one option to open it with, I've got some options there. This would be more specific for like files, not necessarily folders. I can share, I can get the sharing link, I can show the folder location, add shortcut, move to, add to start, rename, change the color of the folder. I can search within that folder. So if I know something lives within that folder, so I'm not searching my entire drive, I can view details, I can download, and I can remove, which is trash. And trash clears, I believe, every 30 days. Yeah, trash deletes every 30 days or when you delete it. Oh, why did it do that? No, thank you. Let's see. The next thing, and this is probably my least favorite thing, and I just haven't figured out how to use them to their highest potential, is shortcuts. So if I want something to live in multiple places, or if it's five levels deep in a folder, but I want that folder to live out here on the top surface, I can create a shortcut. So any file, and I'm trying to think if I have something that's like super deep. Nope. Okay, so we'll go with this one, even though it's only 2 folders deep. So let's say I want this folder to be out on the top level, so I don't have to click into a folder to see it. I can right-click this, and then I can add a shortcut to Drive. If somebody has shared a file with me, and I want to be able to access it whenever I want, so for example, this file here, not that one, let's see. this file that I got from Seesaw the other day, I can right click this and I can add shortcut to drive. So this will add a version. Instead of making a copy, I can just add the shortcut to drive. It's similar to the add to drive feature that we had a couple of years ago, but I liked add to drive better than add shortcut. I feel like shortcut isn't as full function as just adding to drive.
And I think it's also a bit confusing. I know people have been confused about it.
Yeah. Is
So
there anything that you would add, Natalia, to help with clarification?
Sorry, my computer is a little slow. That's why I turned off the video.
Amanda, would you mind showing me where I can see your shortcut you just added?
Yes. So the shortcut I just added was a file. So it's this file right here. And I know it's a shortcut because I get this little symbol. Can you see that? Do I need to make it bigger?
Oh, no, I can see. Yeah.
Okay,
I
perfect.
see. Okay. Oh, okay.
So you get that little like swoop there. And then the folder that I added, the OLA rosters, is right here.
I think you had asked me,
Okay.
Amanda, you had asked me
Mark
what
that a
the
little
difference
bit?
was.
Yeah, I can't really see it that well. Thanks.
Sorry about that. Amanda, you'd asked me what the difference was between the shortcut and add to drive.
Yes.
I think that the difference, in my opinion, is that the add to drive made it appear as if it was yours. Like you could, you know, it made you think that it was yours and it was added to your share with me. Although, and with the shortcut, it is not, does not appear under the shared with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that I wish I understood Google's reasoning behind it. They feel like it's better, and none of us agree with them. So I would love for somebody to explain to me why it's better. What was that?
Can you hear me?
No, I thought somebody had tried to say something. Everybody see I zoomed it in for you guys so you can kind of see that little symbol. When you see that little arrow swoop right there next to a folder or a file, that means it's a shortcut. So this folder is a shortcut, which means I don't own it. You'll also see a little pop-up over it that'll say shortcut. Same thing down here with this file that I saved. You'll see that there's the file name, and then I'll get that little swoop on top of the icon for the file type. It's still organizable. Like I can still organize this in different ways. I can move it to different places. It's just not my favorite. It's just not my favorite. I really like to add to drive. I thought that worked really well. So I prefer that over the shortcut, but Google doesn't always care what I think. Probably one of my favorite ways to organize Drive is creating what I like to call a cheater folder. It feels kind of silly because you could just star the folder, but sometimes when I'm trying to find a file, it doesn't give me the option to look at my starred files. It only gives me the option to look at Drive, depending on what app I'm in. And so I'll throw anything that I'm currently working on in a working folder, and then I'll just take it out or delete it, or delete the shortcut when I'm done. But for the most part, that concept is what starred is. So if you have any files or folders for that matter that are important to you right now, just like starred emails, you can star them. That way they're easy to find, and then you can unstar them when they're no longer something that you need ready access to. So the starred folder is really great. The way that you star an item is you right-click the item and you add to starred. And then you'll see a little star next to it. And then now it's in starred, and then you can unstar it as well. So I can remove from starred. questions about Google Drive? We are not covering shared drives or priority. They are not on the test. Is anybody currently using priority?
What's the difference between priority and start?
Yeah.
Priority is for creating workspaces. So let's say you're working on a project and you've got 10 documents that you need to be going back and forth between, but they're all in different folders. You can create a workspace with all of those files. So if you needed to group things together in like different topics, but a folder isn't the right place for them, or it's temporary, so creating shortcuts isn't really what you need, you can create a workspace. And sometimes, like this one right here, Google will suggest a workspace based on something else, either shared files or something that you've been working on. So this would be a great example. So these are all of the files that we're using for this particular series of workshops. So I could save that workspace. And then I can continue adding files. The only downside to priority and creating these little workspaces is you cannot add folders to the workspace. It's for files only. So that's where my catch is, like, well, but I want to add a folder. Nope, just files.
Yeah, and it also only shows you the first 5 things on in your workspaces. So like I have one, you know how ITTAs, we have to check like for who needs HiSet software and who needs Burlington. So I put all those things in my daily check-ins, and then I just go through that thing. And then I have another one for my interest list. So anything that I'm kind of managing on a daily basis, I put in priority.
Yeah. And can you organize them?
Yeah, you sure can.
Oh, so you can move these up and down?
Let me, I'm in it right now. So let's see.
Because once they're in here, can I reorganize the order?
Let me verify that before I say anything.
Okay. I've tried using it and it just doesn't work for me.
I think what it does is this, and I'm remembering this now, it actually orders them by date of last modified. So it truly is priority. So the things that you're using most often are going to be at the top of that listing because it's definitely not alphabetical. And then I'm looking at it and it says, oh yeah, it's by last modified.
That makes sense.
It's ordered by how many times do you click that button?
Got it. That makes sense.
That's probably how Google knows to suggest a workspace.
So what I use instead of a workspace, and because I've always used it, I just continue to use it, is folders. So where I would probably have a workspace, I instead have this bookmark folder with all of these files in it. Because to me, I was already doing that before. So I love that there's so many different ways that people can stay organized, and some people use it and love it, and other people are like, cool, I don't need that. This is fine. I'll get on fine without it. Any other questions about Drive? I'm going to show you where the settings are in case you've never played with them. You don't need to know what's in them or where they are, but it is a good to know in case you ever have to go in there and find anything. Yes, Mimi.
I'm sorry, can you explain about the workspace? I kind of zoned out.
So the workspace is under the priority, which is in the upper left-hand corner. So priority, my drive, shared drives, shared with me, recent, start, trash. Priority is on the newer side, and it gives you space to create workspaces. So this would be a collection of files that are high priority that you use often. That don't necessarily belong in a folder, or you just want to be able to access them without having to dig in a folder. So you can there's like suggested workspaces, or you can create a workspace and add folders up to, I think, 25 files at a time. Sorry, not folders, files. You can only add up to 25 files. And then you can have your Google Drive actually open to priority before it opens to My Drive. So if you like this suggested bar up here and you use that often, or you're constantly going to recent to find things, priority might be a good next step for you. The way that you make this the first thing that you go to is actually up here in the settings wheel, the gear. So when you go to settings, you can go to make priority my default homepage. So you can turn that on. So when you open Drive, it goes straight to priority.
Thank you. Learned
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah. Especially for those of us that have folders upon folders upon folders, and we hate having to click into 7 folders to find something. This could be a time saver for you. All right. Any other like magical tips that you guys have for organizing your Google Drive? Anybody have something that really works well for them?
Open an account.
Throw everything in the trash.
I use a lot of color. So I recolor things whenever I can.
Yeah.
Can you explain under settings, I'm sorry, I'm trying to open it, get Drive for desktop?
No, I cannot.
Okay. All right.
I believe, do I even have that?
I added it to mine, but the problem is that it's really limited and it only shows the most recent folders that you use. So if you want to put something, drop something into, you know, a folder that hasn't been used in a while, you can't. That's a really limited option.
They used to have it for Mac and they got rid of it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, I just never used it. I feel comfortable here in the browser, so.
Yeah.
I also have found it useless.
Yeah. I also don't store, I mean, I do have files on my computer itself, but I don't purposefully store things there. Everything I do is in the cloud. So if it is on my device, it's a temporary place or it's not going to stay long. It's going to go in the trash soon. One thing that I will say for organizing, and again, this works really well for me, your workflow might be different. I have found that adding years to folders or work makes a big difference. So if I know that I'm creating a syllabus for my class, I'm going to add the year to the file name. If it's going to be a year or date specific, I'm going to be very careful about how I name my folders and my files, because if I just put sign up sheet, cool, how many sign-up sheets am I going to create in my 10 years at this school district? So that's something to keep in mind as you are, you know, naming files and reorganizing things. Names, adding dates can be very, very helpful. I like to add the date in the front. So instead of syllabus 2022, I would say 2022 syllabus, because then it organizes alphabetically by year, and I find that to be helpful. The other thing to keep in mind is ownership matters. If it lives in your drive, it doesn't mean that you own it. So creating something in your LAUSD account and not your personal account. So for example, I left my old school district a couple of years ago. I had been there for 2.5 years, 3 years, and I had obviously hundreds of files. And working at the district office, I had a lot of files that were used by a lot of people. So I had to spend a considerable amount of time making sure, this was before shared drives, that all of those files were transferred ownership to my coworkers. That way, all of the resources that I had made, everything that we had designed would still be accessible by my team after I left, because eventually they shut down my Google account and those files were no longer active. Those aren't things that you have to worry about when you have a personal account, because it's your personal account. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're within a domain, you can transfer ownership from one person to the other, but typically you can't transfer ownership outside of the domain or from outside inside. Yes, Natalia.
I just wanted to add to your comment about how else you organize your Google Drive.
Yeah.
Have you tried the hashtags? in the information. So like if you were to, like I see on your screen, let's say, click on a file, don't open it, just click on one, and you'll see that little eyeball, or the eye, sorry, for the information tab. And that's a quick way for you to know where and who has ownership of this file, where it is located, in which folder. And then you'll see a little pencil there that says add, is it description, I think it is?
Yeah, add a description.
Yeah, so if you click on that pencil, I usually put hashtag and I put the name of the project I'm working on. And say, for example, if you want to do it now, you could do it hashtag, I don't know, L1, for example. And then you save it. And then if you go back to the search box in Drive, just put hashtag L1 and then it will show you that document. Or L, whatever you did. I can't see because it's so small.
Yeah, it is small. Hashtag L1.
Is that how you tagged it?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe I switched it. Here, let's do, can I do it on this one? Or we'll do hashtag
app, for example. I don't know. Don't do space. Remember, you have to do hashtag. It's right next to, there's no space between the hashtag and the word.
Right, right. Okay, that's cool. We'll have to do that. I will try that some more to see if where else I can use that.
Yep.
I have never thought about putting anything in that description box.
Yeah, sometimes I put like the hashtags because it helps me, you know, like organize it, like find it a little bit better sometimes.
Yeah, I've used activity before to see like somebody messed this up. Who messed it up? Like, oh no, it was you. You were the one that was in it last. Cool, great. Now I can go back and fix it. This is kind of like a revised version of the what's it called?
Revision history.
Revision history. Yeah. Yes, Mimi.
Oh yes, I was going to ask. You know, we had a situation where we had a document that was shared with us, but we're not the owners of the document. When we went in and made a copy, what happened to? Do we now assume ownership of that copy because we were unable to add anyone to that copy that we created? Do you know why that might have been?
That is interesting. So typically, when you make a copy of a file, so here's an example of a file. Let's just double check. I own this file. Let me find something that I don't own.
I've always found that you do become the owner of the copy. If it's If it's copyable, it becomes yours. You rename it or do whatever you need to do with it, and then you are the owner. I've had to do that a couple of times with my because of what you said, you can't change domains. So if you have your LAUSD Google Drive and you have my WVOC ITTA kind of personal Google Drive, you can't share ownership. So I share the document, I make a copy, and then I become the owner in my other drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have been just a quirk with that document because, but I wasn't the one who tried to share it. Somebody just queried me about it, and I told them, like, the owner, you should be able to determine the sharing properties and also to make additions to it.
Now, that said, there is a way to change it where I can share a file, but it's not copyable. So if I have this file and I go to sharing, let me make sure my screen is nice and big so you can see it. I have the ability under my share settings to turn off the ability to make a copy. So is it possible that they tried to make a copy, they thought they did, and then they couldn't share it? Maybe.
That's very possible. Like I said, I wasn't there to see the actual document that was being copied. So it's possible that they weren't able to, they were just commenters on it, not
Yeah,
viewers.
and this is a great way to protect not only intellectual property, but also like student information. This, you can't copy and paste. You cannot download, you cannot print. The only thing you can do is take a screenshot, which unfortunately nowadays is super easy to do, and you can even do text description with your phone. So it's going to be harder and harder to keep that information private, but you can prevent a quick copy. So you can turn this off so where even editors can't change permissions and share. If you need to protect sensitive documents, you can also remove the ability for people to make a copy, download, or print. I've had to use those a couple of times, especially if it has sensitive data on it. And you'll be able to see who the owner is when you open up the share and also under the activity. So if I were to add Lauren to this, for example, I could add Lauren. And then if I went back and looked at the settings, I could change her from editor to transfer ownership. You can also give temporary access, which is super cool, or you can remove somebody.
And is it true that your copy of a document doesn't change if the revisions are made to the original?
Exactly. That is actually one of the reasons why I suggest not to make a copy. For example, our agenda is a great example of that. That's why we give you the skills checklist and we don't tell you to make a copy of this, because as you've seen, we've already made changes to this file by adding the recordings. So once you make a copy, you remove the access from one file to the other. Now, the exception to that is in Sheets and in Slides, and sometimes Sheets and Slides, specifically Sheets to Docs. And I don't want to make it confusing, but let's say I have a graph in a Google Sheet and I want to post that graph in a document. I can have a specific link between those two so that data will update, but it doesn't work that way when you just make a copy of something. And we'll look at that more when we look at slides later. Any other questions? Yes, thank you, Natalia, for the reminder. We've only got about 3 minutes left, so let's go ahead and just stop here for the day. If you've got any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We also remember you've got 2 evals. You've got your evaluation, that's your attendance. I think you guys have one for y'all and then one from us. So make sure you put both of those in there. I don't know if we have the other one as well. You're just going to choose today's session is the 28th.
Does anybody see the one from Ruben? Bueller?
Bueller.
Sorry, I'm all muted. No, I actually haven't filled one out from Ruben like ever at all, so I don't know where that is.
He shared it the first or second day. I don't know if I have access to it.
I can send you the link there.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
I have to look for it, but I think did he attach it to the remind message?
Yeah, I don't think I'm on. For some reason, is he sending it to the remind group, IDA group or something like that?
I haven't gotten a remind about this at all.
I'm going to find our, let's see, maybe it's in our planning doc. No, all I see is ours. If I can get that form, or if somebody wants to email it to me, we can also add it to this doc. So our moderator, whoever it may be, can make sure that we add it along with our evaluation as well.
Great.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to add questions here. We will address this meet question, I promise. I'll put an answer on there sometime today. And then we will also work on getting those recordings up for y'all, so you've got the time-stamped version of the recordings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Happy almost
I
Friday.
found the link.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
The link in.
Oh, Mimi, you found the link? Okay.
Yeah.
If you could put it in the chat, I'll grab it.
There.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Natalia.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm
Thank you.
stopping
See
the
you tomorrow.
recording now.